This channel is called BlackJupiter, this person is called Agent Random, this game is called Reynatis, and this game had a crossover collab with The World Ends With You. A series of 5 words that viewers of this channel are very familiar with at this point, I think. I already touched on this collab last April when the teasers for it had just released, but when we didn't know the full scale of what it was. In that video, I largely focused on why such collabs are an early sign of The World Ends With You's eventual return. For more info on what the other signs are, check out the video. But I wanted to take this video to give a full overview on what the collab is, how it came to be, and what it says about The World Ends With You now that it's all said and done. If you're looking at the calendar, you might be thinking that it's been all said and done for quite a while now, and yes, I took a while to actually get to this point in the game since I spent an excruciatingly long time trying to finish Persona 3 Reload. To give a quick recap on what the heck Reynatis is, it's a JRPG developed by Furyu. Or is it Furyu? I actually have no idea. I'm just gonna go with Furyu, and then someone in the comments can tell me if I'm wrong. It's very blatantly inspired from the late Final Fantasy Versus 13 and The World Ends With You. It even steals a number of creative staff straight from Square Enix. The trailers made the game look promising, if a little cheap, but good graphics does not necessarily a good game make. And if Furyu knows how to make a killer game, then this game would be killer. Unfortunately, Furyu does not know how to make a killer game. I'm not going to lie, this game is not one that really won me over. Some of the ideas are really cool, but a lot of the execution just comes across very janky. Why is the default fighting arena for this area this gosh dang tunnel if the camera is just going to get stuck? Why are there quests that become available at the start of a chapter, make you walk to a random spot in town to get the cutscene where your party learns about the quest, and then immediately makes you walk back to where you were at the start to actually begin the quest? Why is the game so poorly optimized that my game will for sure turn into a slideshow of the guild or whoever happens to be storing monsters in the scramble? I know that I'm playing on the Switch, which means that I know full well what the Switch can handle. Because simple stuff like this not being ready for launch makes things not feel cheap or rushed, it just feels like there's a lack of proficiency from the developers. I know that came across ranty, and I'm so sorry. To be clear, I'm not trying to do a personal attack on anyone involved with the game, nor am I trying to deter anyone from trying out the game. I know some people have genuinely fallen in love with Reynatis, and I do want the best for this passion project. So that's why I would still encourage y'all to try out the free demo if you haven't already. See if the experience interests you. It doesn't seem to be my thing, but if it could be something that any of you might enjoy, then I don't want you to miss out on that. And this game is absolutely a passion project and the brainchild of the game's director/producer Takumi Isobe. And partway through development, Isobe decided to hit up Square Enix's Kei Hirono to see if he can make a collab happen. Hirono is one of the producers of The World Ends With You, which Isobe had long since been a fan of. Looking at Reynatis, go figure. From there, Tetsuya Nomura got involved, and Nomura ended up being very impressed with the young game dev sticking out his neck to build his passion project, since similar behavior is what got Nomura to go from character designer to one of the most uncannily powerful people in the Japanese game development industry. Also, I will note that an interview confirmed that one of the first things that Isobe said to Nomura was how much he was looking forward to playing Final Fantasy Versus 13, which LOL. Because why not get more people involved? They also got Tatsuya Kondo and Akiko Ishibashi on the team for the collab. Kondo is the series director for The World Ends With You and gave some direction for the collab. Primarily, he pushed for it to be more than just something small like a costume or Easter egg. He didn't think that these franchises deserved a half-hearted collab, so they wanted to go all out for it. As such, the storyline for the collab, with input from Isobe, was written by Ishibashi, who wrote Nioh's story. Now, I did say that a lot of this happened relatively late into development. As such, the game actually wound up with an internal delay. I don't have dates or figures for this, but I suspect that with the time that it would take to get things squared out with Square's legal team, the collab would have had to have begun work before Reynatis was announced. So we really don't know how long the game got delayed for this. Also supporting the idea that this was done pre-reveal is that Hirono gave Isobe pointers on how to get licenses for the IRL businesses in Shibuya, which we could see the fruits of as early as the reveal trailer. As as for how it got announced, they decided to do it silly. They began teasing this stuff on April frickin' Fools. The Reynatis website updated with things getting glitched out in the 109 building and the key artwork changed to 104 like in The World Ends With You. And the Reynatis Twitter began tweeting about something big coming. But most people weren't really looking at that and didn't notice that something was at play until the World Ends With You's Twitter account began posting custom-made screenshots of Shoka teasing some stuff. Well, she teased it in Japanese, and those of us outside of Japan had to scramble to translate. These screenshots were half of a conversation, with the other half coming from the Reynatis character Sari Nishijima. She's the face of the MEA, which is basically the magic police of the Reynatis world. Nishijima was aware of some weird multiversal nonsense at play, and Shoka was working on getting everything put back together since apparently the two worlds of their games were overlapping a little. They got things sorted out, but Shoka was worried that this wouldn't be the end of the world's collision. And it wasn't, since it happens again in Reynatis proper. Of course, we didn't know that at the time, and it wasn't for several more weeks until a full trailer dropped for what this collab would look like. At 5 in the morning EST. When I very much already had a full schedule later that day. So of course, it would be illogical for me to wake up at 4 in the morning just to see this very short trailer when I was already so busy that day.
Oh boy, 4 a.m. Imagine not waking up at 4 in the morning. or the trailer's at 5, but you gotta wake up a little bit before that to be a functional human being.
Okay, so what happened in the collab itself? Well, Reynatis is split up into chapters, and it already has a system for side chapters that can be triggered through a laptop in the Owl office. Weirdly enough, while the World Ends With You stuff is a side chapter, it's not triggered in that way. Instead, just outside of the Owl office, you can permanently find a Reaper pin on the floor, and picking it up triggers the side chapter yet another day, which is an absolutely hilarious name for this chapter. And I'll be honest, I know I kind of smack-talked this game before, but they went above and beyond for the side chapter since it uses graphics to format itself like a chapter from Neo: The World Ends With You. The start of the story is marked with a chapter title sequence just like in Neo, and a matching chapter closed one to mark the end of the story. And they accompany that with a custom battle results screen for Marine based on Neo. These are really small things, but they mean the world to me. The story of the crossover is pretty simple. Basically, someone in the World Ends With You universe was messing around with dissonance energy in the Reaper pins and making them connect to another parallel world, that being the Reynatis world. I also assume that this is why the colors on the Reaper pin are inverted? Shoka clocked this and decided to play custodian and clean up all of the stuff. She snags most of them, but 2 of the Reaper pins manage to squeak by to Reynatis' world, where they are picked up by the characters Marine and Moa. This pulls both of them into a pseudo-parallel world made up of noise born from the combined imagination of the people from both worlds? What in the new day is this storyline? Yeah, the pseudo-parallel world concept that has only appeared in Final Remix's A New Day. It's genuinely wild that Reynatis, of all things, is where we get more clarification on how one actually makes one of these things. And by one, I mean, actually, nope. She is not worth more of my attention at this point. We are moving the frick on. Similarly to Marine and Moa, both Shoka and Rindo end up yoinked into this plastic toy sandwich of a dimension. And they have clearly come straight from Neo, because holy cow, those models look weird without cell shading. You can definitely tell that this whole thing was done pretty last minute. Especially since neither Rindo or Shoka have any voice acting. Reynatis itself is already only in Japanese, but these 2 in particular stay absolutely silent the entire way. Sorta odd, since they do appear in a couple in-engine animated cutscenes, which I believe are otherwise all voice acted in this game, and since both of their Japanese voice actors are also already in this game. Actually, Shoka's Japanese voice actress Akari Kito also plays Sari Nishijima in this game, meaning that the April Fool's event was a conversation between 2 characters played by the same woman. Also, I do think that both Marine and Moa have 1 voice grunt each that is exclusive to this chapter, so I have no idea what's going on there. Most of the day is spent with Marine, Moa, and Rindo needing to complete a mission in order to not get erased so that Shoka can bail them out afterwards. Moa and Rindo take a tour of Dogenzaka and point out just how much of it looks different than Moa remembers it, since now it's covered head to toe in shops and advertisements for the brands from Neo. I really love their interactions here. Rindo wants nothing to do with her because she clearly has no clue what she's doing. And just like Rindo felt when he first met Nagi, he doesn't like the idea of someone inexperienced bringing him down. But the one thing that Rindo hates more than that is, of course, having to do something on his own. So like the World Ends With You protagonist that he is, he stands still and has a good think about it while Moa blabbers on before deciding to work with her. The two take a tour of the brands that have set up shop in this bizarro Dogenzaka, like Jupiter of the Monkey, which has never had a store in Dogenzaka in any World Ends With You game, so this really is just like a new day since all the locations got jumbled up. Also, Rindo calls it Jupes here, which coupled with the fact that he only cites his party as consisting of 2 other people, I assume Rindo and Shoka are both pulled from Neo's Week 2 Day 2. Very different than something like the Kingdom Hearts crossover, where there's almost no point in the World Ends With You's main storyline that it makes sense for these characters who have been pulled from. We see Moa get frustrated at the fact that Koni Koni does not exist in her universe because she quite likes rabbits, and we see her get obsessed with Gatonero because who wouldn't be? Also, during these scenes, Rindo has a tendency to disappear, forget what he's doing, or just plain not act like himself, as Moa tells him. Very odd. Meanwhile, Maureen and Shoka take a tour of the Scramble Crossing. Shoka is the source of most of the lore of what the heck is happening in this chapter. They check out the 10-4 building, which Maureen expects to say 109 like it normally does in the Reynatis world, and they pay a visit to the Hachiko statue, which Shoka expects to be like a dog like it is IRL, and Maureen expects to be a crow. I've seen a few people online refer to this guy as Hachikrow. It's a crow in the Reynatis world, since the Reynatis world has an alternate history as compared to the real world, since the real world does not have wizards. During this process, the player also has to battle Noise, really just Mosh Grizzlies and Deckard Ravens. Reynatis is a strictly no frog zone. These guys also have their models ripped straight from Neo The World Ends With You, but they work much better in this art style. Or I don't know, maybe I feel that way just because I'm too used to seeing these guys in the animation. When it came to assets, the dev team for Reynatis was given basically every single one from Neo to work with. But they did also get some new stuff. When the two groups meet back up, Moa fangirls over Shoka's hoodie and forces Shoka to take a selfie with her. This selfie, aka a whole lot of people's profile pictures last September, is new artwork done by the World Ends With You's lead artist, Gen Kobayashi. Super awesome to see. Now that everything is cleared up, Rindo and Shoka screw off back home, but Moa and Shoka's fangirl moment caused the Mr. Mew boss fight from Neo's Week 2 Day 2 to manifest, along with the boss arena once again ripped straight from the game. Boss fight is fun, but nothing special. I don't know if my Moa is just cracked or if the fight was too easy because I melted half of Bro's health bar in just a few seconds. Bonus points for the death animation being from Neo though. But just then, Shiki triggers her 3rd tier fusion because the Giga Mew shows up, only for Rindo to appear out of nowhere and one-shot that thing. Rindo has a moment of victory, surprised that everyone finally managed to survive. So yeah, it turns out that Rindo was replaying all day today. Moa never quite finds this out, but she does clock that this Rindo is acting much more like Rindo was when he first met her, since she basically spent the whole day with him out of chronological order. The fact that Rindo does a replay here means that the total number of replays that he does in his journey is +1 now, which probably makes certain things harder for himself much later on in his own story, but you know what, whatever. That's probably some canon anyway. I mean, either that or the guild has some lovely new birds in their collection from this point onward. Another detail that I love here is that Maureen figures out that Rindo can time travel, and the two talk about what happened in Rindo's other loops. Rindo talks about Maureen's goals of becoming the very best like no one ever was, and even talks about the Tempest, which is something that Maureen does not like to share with people, meaning that Rindo managed to get along really well with this guy in his other loops of the day. In a lot of other stories, I would probably criticize this for putting major character moments like this off screen, but since it's not like Rindo is ever going to have any more screen time in this game, telling us that this cameo character actually had this crazy character developing story that's just out of the scope of this game's POV to show is a really cool detail to me. That said, I would pay so much money to see Rindo's POV of this day, since apparently this went so wrong that when Maureen died, Dominus appears. I barely know what that is since, like I said, I struggle to find the will to play any further in this game, but the way that Rindo describes it sounds freaking wild. world. After this, everyone goes back to their home world, but Rindo gives Maureen a pin to use. I guess in the lore, pins work the same way that Wizart does, since it shows up in your inventory as Wizart. The Wizart basically lets you use the same attack as the Mr. Mew pin from Neo, so that's fun. And that's the plot of Yet Another Day. Honestly, it was way more fun than I had initially expected, since I figured that we were going to see a Shoka costume for Moa, and like, that was basically it. But no, a full-length 40 to 50 minute chapter that authentically represents Neo. That's wild. It even changes the background music to be Neo's. The field theme is chaste, the battle theme is incongruous, we hear the beginning of a happy life at one point, and Last Call plays for the Mr. Mew fight. No new music, unfortunately, at the request of Square's legal team, but this is still really cool to see. Though I'm surprised Ishimoto managed to resist sneaking into Furyu's office and give them yet another remix of Twister. And the script was super authentic. Both Rindo and Shoka talk like Rindo and Shoka. For those of you that don't know, the World Ends New series is well known for its very strong localization. For more info on that, check out my video covering the first game's localization. Most games don't get their dialogue overhauled to such a degree, and Reynatis is no different. But they took the extra step to make Rindo and Shoka speak in 2020 slang like they did in their own game. Seeing Shoka say the word salty really made her stick out in Reynatis, but that's okay because so does her model. I can actually confirm that this in particular was done basically just before the English release. You see, back in August, a demo released for this game exclusively in Japan. But by digging through the files for the demo, you can find most of the files for Yet Another Day along with the full English script. For an upcoming project, I went to make a transcript of the day using the game code that I had on hand to help me out. But I noticed that the script was not the same between the two versions, and that the differences seemingly mostly lied with the World Ends With You characters. I wasn't able to verify this across all of Reynatis, but it seems to me that extra care was taken towards the end of the localization process to rewrite all of the dialogue for the World Ends With You characters. This does also give the unique opportunity to see clarification on certain lines. Like when Shoka talks to Maureen about why she isn't unhappy as a Reaper, she says that she can still shop and mess with people. The original translation has her use the word living instead of people, which does change what she's saying somewhat. At least notably enough for me. Also, weirdly enough, there were like 2 typos present in the final version of the script, but not the beta one. Very odd. I wrote this transcript because since this day features basically no voice acting, I'm attempting to produce a fan dub of the day, which will be posted on this channel when it's all done. We've already done auditions for Maureen and Moa, and the auditions for the 3 World Ends With You characters are still ongoing for a few more days as of this video's release. So if you want to throw your hat into the ring or just follow the project, check out the document linked below. And this is all being organized from the BlackJupiter Discord server, which I've been told that I don't talk about nearly enough, so we have a Discord server. Also, yes, I said 3 World Ends With You characters because aside from Rindo and Shoka, a 3rd character makes a very small appearance. I said Isobe was a World Ends With You fan, and there ain't no World Ends With You fan in existence that would pass down the opportunity to include the mathy trashy man himself in their project. As revealed at the very end of the chapter, the one behind all the cross-dimensional weirdness in this story is Sho Minamimoto. And it seems that in all of his dimension crossing, he found a way to access the 2nd dimension. That's literally just a sprite from the game. Like they had his model, but they chose not to use it. I think that's kind of funny. So does Yet Another Day live up to the hype? I'd say so. This easily could have been a small Easter egg or cameo or side quest, but no. They meant it when Kondo said that he didn't want to do this halfway. So I really hope that I get to make a solid fandom of it so that this chapter becomes more accessible to more people. If you want to be a part of it, please audition. And as always, special thank you to our patrons: Bacon and Search Noun, Kaiser, Willpower 784, Wonderland Snack, The Missing Samurai, and Venforia. Next up might be the Neo Beta video Volume 2. Maybe. We'll see. Bye.